I welcome you all for the third semester classes. I'll be teaching you all the subject operating system. So I hope everyone are safe at home. Be at home and be safe. So it is very important for you all to understand the subject operating system, because if there is no operating system, you cannot operate on the computers and the smartphone devices. So it is very necessary to understand what is this operating system, how it works, and how it helps you all to operate the computers and smartphone devices. So let us now understand what is operating system. So nowadays you see everywhere computer, smartphone devices are used. So there is no any field left where computer, smartphone devices are not used. So even lot of work you do using your smartphones. So between these computers and smartphone devices, we find out a common type of software in this, and that software we call it as operating system. So operating system is very necessary, because if there is no operating system in these computers and smartphone devices, you cannot operate or work on these smartphone devices or the computer. These are the examples of operating system: Microsoft Windows, Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows Vista. So this operating system we find out on the personal computers or the laptops. Android operating system we find out on the smartphone devices. Linux, Red Hat, Mac, these are the operating system used by the programmers, developers, or in the large organizations. What is the operating system? So in this diagram you can see there is a user, there is a computer, and in between there is a operating system. So operating system is very mandatory here to interact between the user and the computer. The user requests to the operating system any information, and the operating system fetches it from the computer and hands it over to the user. So this is how the operating system is important between the user and the computer interaction. So let us see what is the definition of the operating system. A program that acts as an intermediary between a user of a computer and the computer hardware and controls the execution of all kinds of programs. So here it is very important, controls the execution of all kinds of programs. So in this diagram we can see in between there is an operating system, and operating system manages and controls various input-output devices like monitor, printer, mouse, keyboard, various application softwares, and the hard drive or hard disk. So operating system recognizes the input from the keyboard or the mouse and send it on the monitor or the printer. Similarly, it also keeps the tracks of the various files and folders on the hard disk. So let us understand operating system properly with the help of an example. At the right side you can see these are the words which are familiar to the computer, and these are the words which are familiar to the restaurant. So we are going to compare our computer system with the restaurant. So in every restaurant we have a kitchen. In kitchen they cook the food whatever the customer is demanding. So kitchen is like a computer. So to prepare the food they need a chef. So what is the work of the chef? Is to prepare the food very well and serve it in a very fast way to the customers. So here the chefs are like processors. So whatever the computer user demands, to respond them in a fast way is the work of the processor. So two chefs can prepare the food in a very fast way. So if there are dual processors in a computer, whatever the user requests, it can fulfill the demand in a very fast way, or you can say within a second. For chefs to prepare the food properly, they need the space. If there is no space, they cannot prepare the food properly, or they cannot manage it. In computer system also, there is a space, and that space we call it as a RAM, random access memory. RAM is needed for proper functioning of a computer and processor so that they can fulfill the demand of computer user. So in the kitchen there is also a refrigerator. So whenever the chef needs any ingredients to prepare the food, they take it out from the refrigerator, prepare the food and store it back in the refrigerator. Same way, in the computer there are hard drives, or we can say hard disk. So we store various files, application programs in the hard disk. So whenever the user needs any file or software, it will be taken out from hard drive. User can make changes in the file and store it back in hard drives or hard drive. So customers are like the computer users. So what is the role of the operating system? So operating system are like a manager. So what is the role of the manager in the restaurant? The manager's responsibility is to take care that food is served properly to the customers. What ingredients are needed, how the service is going on, whether the customers are satisfied or no. Same way, the operating system's duty is to control and manage all the parts of the computer and to fulfill the request of computer user and to help the users when they are operating computers. So in this diagram you can see the user requests the information with the help of the system and application programs to the operating system. The operating system interacts with the computer hardware and fetches it from the computer hardware, and operating system responds back with the help of the system and application programs to the user. So let us understand the various operating system. So first of all we'll see the Windows. So this Windows is the extension of the MS-DOS. Windows is a very famous operating system developed by Microsoft. In every PC and laptops you find this Windows operating system. Windows is fully graphical user interface, that is we call GUI based operating system. Because of this graphical user interface, we can see the files, create the files, open the files, copy the files, delete the files with the help of a mouse or touch screen. So there are various versions of Windows like Windows NT, Windows 95, Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 10, etc. Okay. There is another operating system called Unix and Linux. So Unix is multitasking multi-user operating system, and Unix is widely used for internet servers, workstations and mainframe computers, and it was developed in 1969 at AT&T Laboratories by Kenneth Thompson and Dennis Ritchie. Okay. And this Unix is a command line operating system which is written in a C language. Okay. So there are various versions of the Unix like Sun Solaris, Linux, Mac operating system. Sun Microsystem was the first company to use this windowing environment in conjunction with the Unix operating system. So this Linux is just the extension of the Unix. Okay, and it is a free open source. You can find out this Linux operating system on the internet and you can freely download it. And it was created in 1991 by Linus Torvalds. Okay. The code is used to create free and available to the public to view, edit for users with appropriate skills. Okay. So this Linux is mostly used for it can be used by any person, and it is mostly used in the academics for students to develop and write the code and execute it. So next type of operating system is Android. Okay, nowadays the Android is very famous in the smartphones, and you can find out this operating system on the smartphones, and it is a Linux based operating system, and it was developed by Open Handset Allies, and it is led by Google and other companies. Okay, so because of this operating system, it can able to detect the finger movements and motions, okay, like pinching, swiping and tapping. So the difference between Windows and Unix Linux operating system. So these are the very famous operating system, Windows and Unix Linux. So we'll see what is the difference between these. A commercial Windows operating system developed by Microsoft. Okay, this is a commercial and you will not get it freely. It is not an open source. You need to purchase this Windows operating system. Whereas Unix, it is developed by Kenneth Thompson and Dennis Ritchie. Okay, so there is no access to the source code in Windows, whereas in Linux there is a full access to the source code. It supports multiple users and sessions, but depends on versions and editions. Okay, but here this side it supports 100% multi-user environments. Okay, Unix Linux is very famous for multi-user environments, and it is mostly used in a networking environment and all. Microkernel or hybrid kernel is used here in Windows, and here this side it is used monolithic kernel. Okay, so these kernels are a part of the operating system which will handle everything inside the operating system. Later you'll come to know what are in detail about this kernel. Here Windows are less reliable and efficient compared to Linux. Windows need to try multiple times to pull hang applications. Okay, if you compare this with the Unix Linux, these are very less reliable and efficient. It is more efficient and reliable, such as we can kill applications if they hang by using kill command. Okay, there are more powerful commands you can find out in the Unix Linux. With a single command, it can do a lot of things. Okay, that's why those are more efficient and reliable compared to the Windows. Provides less security than Linux. Provides more security than Windows. As you can see, the Windows operating system gets attacked by the viruses and all, or it is very less secure compared to the Unix Linux. Windows does not provide much efficiency in hacking. It is used in hacking purpose based system. Unix Linux is the favorite of hackers because there are lot of powerful commands we can find out in Unix Linux, and they can do a lot of things using these commands. So it is a favorite of hackers. Windows have a large collection of video game software, and software need to install separately. So Windows operating system is very famous for the games. So a lot of the games are developed in Windows, and many people use Windows operating system for playing the games. And all softwares has to be installed separately here. Okay, in Unix Linux, it supports a wide variety of free softwares. All own software comes with Linux package. Windows are used by gamers and business users, whereas Unix Linux it is used by corporate organizations as servers and operating system for security purpose, as Google, FB and Twitter use it. So another difference we see between the Unix and Linux operating system. Okay, because these two categories falls in the same, but let us see what is the difference. Unix is a proprietary software and it is a complete operating system. Okay, so you don't find it easily, you don't able to download it freely. It is you need to purchase this Unix, whereas Linux is open source and you can download it from the internet, and it is basically the name of the kernel. Unix is developed by AT&T developers by Kenneth Thompson and Dennis Ritchie, whereas Linux is developed by an active Linux community worldwide, and Linus Torvald is developed as at the University of Helsinki. Unix operating systems were developed mainly for mainframe servers and workstations. Okay, that's why it is not an open source, and we need to purchase this because this Unix are used on the main critical applications. Whereas Linux can be used by everyone from home user to developers and any complete users. As I told you, Linux can be also used in the academics and mostly for the students. So it is easy for the students to understand, and anybody can download it from the internet. The source code of Unix is not available for the general public, whereas the source code of Linux is freely available to its users. Unix primarily uses command line interface, whereas in Linux we can find both combination, graphical user interface with an command line interface. That's why the Linux is used by common people, and it is famous for the education purpose. Unix installation requires a strict and well-defined hardware machinery and works only on specific CPU machines. Okay. Whereas Linux is very flexible and can be installed on most of the home-based PCs compatible with most hardware systems. Okay, the different versions of Unix are like AIS, which is developed by IBM, BSD, HPUX, Solaris, and Iris. And different versions of Linux are Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Red Hat, Solaris, Fedora, and Debian, etc. Okay. As you all know that you have the practicals based on the Unix Linux operating system. So in your practical, we are going to use any one of these softwares, any one of the operating software from the Linux. So I hope you all understood this topic, and thank you.